I remember getting an email from a friend of mine who said, should we send umbrellas? And I said, we don't need umbrellas. We need kayaks. That's what we need. There are people floating away in some parts of California. The water's getting high. The last I saw, let's see, let's go to the web. The web says there are as many as 17, at least 17 people dead. As we have this storm that just keeps, they call it the atmospheric river, and it just moves across the state, right? So right now apparently it's in LA in the south. It starts from the coast, and southerly winds push the rains up here in California. That's my rudimentary knowledge of meteorology. Southerly winds, and so where I am, I guess it's yet to come. I mean, we it's been on and off, right? Because it just doesn't, unless you have total bad luck. Life isn't just like the cloud is over your head and it just dumps out all this rain and that's it. I mean, it dumps and then it moves on. I mean, it's temporary, but it's a long temporary if it's one storm after the other. And this atmospheric, or this atmospheric river, right? That's what they call it. It's just amazing. I mean, when you're dry and in your home and you can hear the pitter patter of the rain, yeah, you can romanticize about it. But the atmospheric river, if you don't have adequate shelter, or if it just comes down, the kind of havoc it's wreaking on people because of roads, because of where they are in flood zones. So we've got evacuation orders throughout the state. And I said at least 17 people dead. So if you're in California and listening to me, I hope you're safe. I mean, it's not really funny. I tell all my friends that I'm safe where I am. Thank goodness. Cross your fingers. But I have experienced all the bad things about the rain. And a lot of times it's not just the wind or the rain, it's also the wind. Fences bashed down and trees falling. Now my heart goes out to you if you were unlucky or unfortunate to have something happen, but I hope you're safe and listening to us. Welcome to Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. I do this show Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live, because it's kind of more dangerous that way, just to sort of get the news, give you some of my takes. And isn't it funny that California, where I am, it's sort of like the live take right now. People watching, well, what's happening to California? I think we're safe depending upon where you are, and if you're in a low-lying area, or if you're in an area where there's, where the water has exceeded its banks. I'm talking about rivers and creeks and that kind of thing. But like I said, in the past, I've lived next to culverts that are just ways to get the excess water off it. But if that's full, then you get flooded too. And I've been flooded before. It's no fun. Sometimes, and it's funny that this happens to California today or this week, because normally we fear things like fire and things like earthquakes, but all it takes is one bad flood, either natural or man-made. You see the power of water, you see the destructive power of water, and in your mind you say, well, what's worse? I mean, earthquake could be bad, but chances are it's not really as bad for the kind of earthquakes we have. I mean, you've got to have the big one, right? I guess that's true with rain too. Or you say fires are bad. They're all bad. I mean, I wouldn't want to rank which is worse, but I think sometimes people think that the rain, not bad because it doesn't rain as much here. But it's coming down now. and throughout the state. And like I said, when we have to report, according to news sources, 17, at least 17 dead. That's the New York Times headline, 17 dead as relentless storms pound California. I saw some television news pieces out of Felton, which is around the Santa Cruz area. That was bad. Of course, Montecito around Santa Barbara. And if you drive up and down the coast, you know where Montecito is. Beautiful community. It's just sad. They get rocked all the time. They get rocked by fire. They get rocked by water and floods. It's a wealthy community, but I'd hate to be their insurance adjuster right now because there's been a lot of damage in that area the last 5-10 years. Anyway, hey, I want to mention this right at the top because we're coming to that time where we're almost really a month away from my New York City debut. I'm making a debut, as they say in Filipinoville. The New York City Frigid Fringe is coming February 15th. And so that's about a month or so away. My show, Lost NPR Host Found Under St. Mark's, is running February 16th at 8:10 p.m., Thursday, Saturday, February 18th at 5:20 p.m., Thursday, February 23rd at 6:30 p.m., and then take a break and come back Saturday, February 25th at 12:20 p.m., a nooner with Emil. Oh my goodness. Then Sunday, February 26th at 7 p.m. for those of you who say, I don't want to watch 60 Minutes. I'd rather see Emil at 7 p.m. These are all East Coast times. Friday, March 3rd at 8:10 p.m. and then Saturday at March 4th at 10:20 p.m. Closing it out Saturday night, March the 4th, Lost NPR Host Found Under St. Mark's. 7 performances I'm doing, and probably by the 7th, I'm just giddy, ready to let go. Who knows how Emil Amok will be by that 7th show. Anyway, it's an interesting show. I talk about NPR. I talk about affirmative action and Harvard. I talk about being Filipino. I talk about Filipino American history, Asian American history. I talk about race and culture and media in America. Oh man, all that in just a 55-minute show. And if you're not in New York City, it's at the Under St. Mark's Theater. But if you're not in New York City, there is a way to see it live streamed wherever you are. If you're in California or Hawaii or wherever, and it's you ask, is it sort of like what you're doing now, Emil? Well, I don't know, not exactly. I mean, what I'm doing now is a talk show, right? This is really just a talk show. What I do on stage is much more a little bit of stand-up, a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of solo performance, aka theater, but not so well. It is theater, but so you say, are you playing a character? Well, I do play some characters, but I also play me. It's a fun show. I don't have my board here that has all my blurbs, but it's a fun show, and tune in again next time. I will share the link by which you can buy tickets for the show. And so that's coming up. Like I said, tune in. This is show 465, but probably tomorrow I'll actually be able to put on the link and you can buy tickets. You can say, we want to see you, Emil. We want to see you fall flat on your face. Yeah, that would be funny. You didn't tell us it was like a physical comedy. Well, it was not necessarily intended to be, but it could be. It could be. Anyway, lost NPR host found under St. Mark's. Check it out. I gave you the times, but I will post it. I'll post all the details you need to get tickets on amok.com when they're available. And also, surely, I will talk about it right here on Emil Muck's Takeout, right here. So the topic really still is Congress, the 118th Congress. And I wanted to put all my thoughts about what I think about this from last week to this week, because we had the rules vote yesterday, and a lot of people were like, like they were waiting to see, well, just what kind of ruckus is going to be caused by the Republicans on Monday. And it really was kind of mild compared to the ruckus they caused on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday into Saturday night. And so I put it all in my column on the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, the ALDEF blog, my column, aaldef.org/blog. And I titled it McCarthy's Bakersfield Ugly Politics and the 118th Congress. In this age of ugly politics, we must start this piece with a sense of hope. Therefore, it's good news that Buffalo Bills football player Damar Hamlin, who actually died of cardiac arrest on a football field last week, but was revived by defibrillation, is now walking and talking on his road to recovery. As for American democracy, it's still an open question if it can survive the first week of the 118th Congress. And that's why we must remember the coincidence of the Damar Hamlin story. It's a reminder that the American public can be extremely empathetic, caring, united even, just not divided. We are all on the same team until we talk politics. And then that's when the ugliness comes out, as we saw with Republicans last week. If, as the saying goes, politics is showbiz for ugly people, we saw ugly play out when Congressman Mike Rogers, Christian, conservative, Alabamian, and the man likely to be the Republican chairman of the Armed Services Committee, had to be restrained before applying some form of armed services on Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. Not to say that Gaetz didn't deserve it, but, we're adults here, right? I mean, it was Gaetz's vote against Kevin McCarthy on the 14th ballot that extended the embarrassment for the GOP. That embarrassment, of course, hey, here's a very simple thing. Majority select a leader, and the majority couldn't do it. And it took more than 14 ballots. But Representative McCarthy is a son of Bakersfield, California, and we all know it now as being wet and dreary, but it really is known for being dusty and hot with some of the worst air pollution in the country. And early Saturday morning on the House floor in D.C., McCarthy won the speakership of the House just like his hometown. Bakersfield ugly. Bakersfield ugly. I mean, that's what it was. It took 15 ballots, a near brawl, and 6 members taking no stand, simply voting present. And this was the best that the new House majority could muster. So I like to say, when your doctor needs 15 tries to do a simple routine procedure, a little harder than say ah. I mean, you don't praise him for his incompetence. You question his right to practice. And then when he tells you that he does everything that way, I do everything that way. I mean, you, as the kids would say, SMH. shake that head and you get concerned. With McCarthy and the GOP, the subject is democracy. That's practically a sacred right that we Americans must hold dear. I mean, it requires serious, mature, respectful people who should be acting in a deliberate and high-minded way for the good of the people and the entire republic. Oh, sure, you can joke, but you're not jokers. You're the serious people. You're the adults in the room. It's not the moment for petty squabbles and horse trading on the rules of power. Democracy is about public service, not self-service. But that's what we're left with after those 4 days last week. Democrats sat powerless in the minority as we all watched the Republican majority stumble at the gate and reveal its true nature. And what is that true nature? Well, we saw it. We saw it extended. You know, it's a good thing the speaker vote wasn't extended until Monday. You know, they were going to do that. They were going to like go home on Friday night late and then come back on Monday and vote. But it's a good thing they actually went ahead and voted that late Friday night, Saturday morning, because the coincidence of Brazil's January 6th insurrection would have been too much for an ironic split screen, right? Brazil having a moment with more than 1,200 arrested as the Republican election deniers, the presentable insurrectionists in the U.S., tried to figure out how to govern in their own ugly way. America should be the model democracy for the world. We're all in trouble when we're not. We're not that model democracy. So it was a blessing to have the rules vote on Monday because it wasn't as ugly on the outside like the speaker vote, which really just laid out the math of this new Congress. There are 222 Republicans in the majority, 212 Democrats, which means the Republicans can only afford to lose 4 votes to make things happen. 222 minus 4, that's 218. That's the magic number. But you lose a 5th vote or more detractors, and you have a death block, as it was for the McCarthy vote, until they got enough present votes to lower the required vote threshold. Now, when Republicans get that, they can get anything they want, anytime, including making rules that are against American self-interest. So ask yourself, is it in your self-interest to allow the default of the U.S. government? A new rule that was passed on Monday gets rid of a safety net, the automatic lifting of the debt ceiling to allow the country to pay its bills. With that gone, 5 blocking votes could have the leverage to really screw things up. I mean, if you need a spending cut to raise the debt ceiling, do you go after Medicare? Do you go after Social Security? Did we see that coming? We should have. And then we can see the impact of a U.S. default on both the global and domestic economy. The rules that were passed on Monday will make things far worse when the stakes are higher than a speaker vote. Still, the upshot with the rules is we don't know everything McCarthy gave away to the ultra-right Freedom Caucus, those members who stood in his way to become speaker. And some concessions were in writing, like the rule to allow just 1 vote to bring up a no confidence vote on the speaker. So we know McCarthy is a weak speaker going in. But as Representative James McGovern, the Democratic Rules Chair, was watching on C-SPAN, as he pointed out in debate, he said, these rules are not a serious attempt at governing. They're essentially a ransom note to America from the extreme right. That was McGovern's pleading for transparency. But it wasn't enough to stop the rules. It wasn't enough to have the Republicans cough up the rules, the one we know and the ones we don't know. Republicans got to 218 and more. That's why you have to say, thank goodness for the Democratic Senate and the presidency. There's your check and balance. Still, this is lots of drama that we have to go through. For what? For Republican self-aggrandizement? Now, I know many of you are Asian Americans, and so as for Asian Americans, those 4 days last week, we got a bit of FaceTime. Maybe not 7% worth, the percentage of AAPIs in our country, but there was some FaceTime. Highest ranking AAPI in the Democratic leadership, Representative Ted Lieu. He got some FaceTime when he nominated Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries in the 9th round of speaker voting on Friday. Across the aisle, I did see the TV cams get shots of Michelle Steele, the AAPI Republican who won California 45, Southern California. She's the one known for scathingly racist attacks during the midterm elections, falsely accusing AAPI Democrat Jay Chen of being a Chinese communist sympathizer. That's how low Michelle Steele, a Korean American, that's how low she went to win the Vietnamese vote in their Orange County district. Steele is one of 2 Korean American women on the Republican side. But as I saw the camera scan and catch her, she was just a powerless member of the new House majority. Blink and you missed her. As I pointed out, there was ugliness and disagreement among the Republicans, but there's one thing most of all, or that most of them can agree on. It's us, Asian Americans. Many of the Republicans in Congress don't like Asian Americans that much, or at least in terms of policy resolutions to protect us, Asian Americans, from hate due to the pandemic scapegoating by former President Trump. Most of the Republicans, if they were in Congress at the time, 2020, all voted against House Resolution 908 from Grace Meng, the Democrat of New York. The resolution to fight AAPI hate crimes did ultimately pass in the Senate, but not before 164 Republicans in the House showed their anti-Asian side and voted against it. And the no votes included some of the key names in last week's debacle. I could have called it a debate, but it was more a debacle, right? The Republican majority flexing their muscles are actually being held hostage, or the whole House was held hostage by the tiny minority of conservative, ultra-right congressmen, GOPers, like Andy Biggs, Bob Good, Chip Roy. Chip Roy's making a name for himself now. Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise, McCarthy himself. He voted no on that hate crime resolution. So where do we as Asian Americans, where do we as blacks, indigenous, people of color, the BIPOC communities, where can we draw some comfort in this new 118th Congress? If you stayed up late on Friday night, the Democrats showed why they remain the party of choice among AAPIs, among the BIPOC community, among people of reason. You don't have to be woke. You just have to have reason, morals, maybe a few ethics. In his first speech to the 118th Congress, Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries eloquently spelled out what I have long called the litany. I mean, in every major speech, big major addresses, State of the Union addresses, any major speech a politician gives, I look for the litany. And Hakeem Jeffries delivered one, using former Congressman John Lewis's quote about how we may have come over on different ships, but we are all in the same boat now. Jeffries waxed poetic. Said Jeffries, we are white, we are black, we are Latino, we are Asian, we are Native American, we are Christian, we are Jewish, we are Muslim, we are Hindu, we are religiously secular, we are gay, we are straight, we are young, we are older, we are women, we are men, we are citizens, we are dreamers. Out of many, we are one. That's what makes America a great country. That's the litany. And to that, there was loud applause in the people's house, the part of it that looks like America. And Jeffries concluded, and no matter what kind of haters are trying to divide us, are not going to let anyone take that away from us. Not now, not ever. Once Jeffries passed the gavel to McCarthy around 1 a.m. on Saturday morning, few heard Kevin McCarthy make his first address. We believe government should be to help you, not go after you, McCarthy said. He could have added, unless your name is Biden, but he didn't. We didn't pass bills to fix the nation or its challenges, from wide open southern borders to America Last energy policies to woke indoctrination in our schools. And I wonder, does that mean no AAPI history K through 12? Woke indoctrination? I mean, you're going to deny our kids the facts? McCarthy didn't get into how Republicans want to cut Medicare or Social Security to balance the budget. He did mention going after China and using subpoena power to stage Republican witch hunts of Democrats. And we know the GOP wants to go after abortion rights and LGBTQ rights. He also only mentioned the southern border, but there was nothing about real immigration reform, which we need, and nothing on solutions for the dreamers, individuals who receive deferred action on childhood arrivals, DACA. Jeffries mentioned them. McCarthy did not. There was no litany from the new speaker, so proud to be leader of the People's House. And yet it was a fitting start for the Republicans of 2023. A weak speech from a weak speaker in his moment of glory that few saw. That's what happens when, after giving up so much, just holding the gavel is more important than democracy itself. That's how I saw it. The opening of the 118th Congress, it's going to be a challenge these next few years, because there's just a 4-vote margin. And those 4 holdouts, there are people who held out for speaker, and they'll hold out for everything if they don't get what they want. And that's the trouble when you have a speaker who is so weak that it forces people to look at parliamentary actions, to go into the parliamentary rules and figure out, well, we can get by the speaker if we do this, or if we do that. We can get by Republican leadership. That's the kind of thing that, Democrats are already looking into. Just like that little parliamentary trick about, how to bypass getting a majority to vote. You have reconciliation. Reconciliation is everyone getting together. I remember when I worked in Congress, everyone thought, oh, reconciliation mean like, when 2 separated people get together. Now, reconciliation in parliamentary parlance is the way that you can bypass having to get a majority on certain bills to get things passed, like budgets. You don't use it all the time, but it's a trick. It's a tool. And this is going to be a Congress that is going to be relying on a lot of tools to get by Republican incompetence. I mean, we saw it on display with the speakership, and that's going to be just the basic model on things that everyone gets along with. Oh, yeah, we're Republicans and we're going to elect a speaker. That's easy. And then it's not easy. Like I said, if your doctor took 15 shots to like take out his stethoscope and hear your heartbeat, you'd say, why am I seeing this doctor? He can't find my heartbeat. Well, it'll be wild. It'll be wild, and we will see the Republicans justify everything, saying, well, democracy's messy. This is democracy. We're gonna be transparent, except in terms of talking about what the rules are, because they haven't really shown a list of the concessions. And if you listen to the interviews that people like Chip Roy have given the media, they say, well, we do a handshake deal. We don't write it down. And it's just part of the process. We'll just keep negotiating, keep debating. It's more of those 4 days. Those 4 days, it's Groundhog Day extended, really. It's just going to be more of that. It's the 118th Congress. Isn't it good to be alive? I think if we pay attention, it might be instructive. It might be. And then again, it could be just a big waste of time. But hopefully it makes people who heretofore have not been involved, it makes people say, it's time to get involved. All right. So, I don't want to talk about the Biden doc so much, except, it's not a good thing, but you hear people say, okay, it's not quite what Trump did in his boxes of presidential papers. And certainly Biden is acting so much differently than Trump. I mean, he went to the presidential archive and said, here, we discovered these by accident. Here, come get it. And I think the realization is that, boy, this happens more frequently. And people are saying, well, if it happens more frequently, why do we criminalize? It's kind of like people smoking marijuana. And people saying, well, let's decriminalize marijuana smoking. And then they did. And then, but as long as we make everything political, I don't know how easy it's going to be. I mean, I think that because what Trump and Biden did are so different, it's not necessarily the same thing. They're papers, but a big thing depends on, the willful, taking of these things and intent. These are all issues that are relevant. And I think that Biden certainly didn't seem to have any kind of willful intent to take them. It was found in a closet by his attorneys, and then as soon as they found it, they went to authorities. So that's certainly not the case with Trump, who got the word that these things didn't belong in his he had no right to them, and he never got it back to them until very late in the game. And then he kept some. So there were no lies, no deception. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. But I know there's some Trump people are saying, there, see, Joe Biden is not pure. He's not a saint. Well, no one says he's a saint. But I don't think anyone thinks that Joe Biden is the same with his documents as Donald Trump. So another bad mark on the Trump side today is his financial guy got 5 months. And now they're talking about with this Georgia grand jury, Who knows who's the next guy to be have the finger pointed at him? Some say Giuliani, some say Giuliani and Trump, but it does not look good for the formerly twice impeached president. All right, a few more things I think worth getting into because we are on social media. And I was kind of fascinated by this because the Seattle schools have sued social media companies. They did it on Friday. They went after big tech platforms for having a negative impact on students' mental health and saying it's really impeded the work of the schools to fulfill, quote, its educational mission. Some Seattle reports say that this lawsuit filed against the parent companies, Facebook, which we're on, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube, which we're also on, was done primarily because the schools, some students were saying it's because the schools don't have enough resources. They got to deal with, they're scapegoating social media. It's not, so in other words, the students who use the social media say it's not just social media's fault. It's also, the budgetary process and the school's lack of counselors and mental health experts to come in and administer to these students. Anyway, that was one of the reports out of Seattle. But the Seattle School District, 50,000 students, school district is alleging the suit that the companies have successfully exploited the vulnerable brains of youth to maximize how much time they spend on the platforms in order to boost profits. The suit says that the platforms have been a substantial factor in causing a youth mental health crisis, which has been marked by higher and higher proportions of youth struggling with anxiety, depression, thoughts of self-harm, and suicidal ideation. So Meta has responded, and they say they're continuing to pour resources into helping young users online, but most other companies did not respond to the suit. I think it's good that the suit is out there because, look, unless there's some pushback, what's going to make the companies do anything? I mean, they may not do anything at all, even with this suit, because there's a lot to prove besides the coincidence that, oh, well, these people were using social media. I kept thinking as I was reading the story and watching the story on the TV versions that, what about adults? Adults who use social media. I mean, we're supposed to be adult. We're supposed to know better. But, at some point, we're all susceptible to the same things, anxiety, depression, thoughts of self-harm, suicidal ideation, social media. It's worse when you're a kid. And of course, when you're a kid, you think there is no life except social media. At least if you're older, you say, well, there's no social media. I think I'll just stick my head out the window and scream. Or I think there's no social media. I think I'm going to write someone a letter. And that'll take 3 days to get to them. And then they'll answer. And then in a week, I'll get their response. I know some people can't believe, boy, that really happened? You like wrote a letter telling your feelings, and the person got the letter like 3 days after you posted it. And then, of course, they would post a response, send it back, and that would take another 3 days, and you would have a week before you got an answer. And I said, yeah, they had a week to just sort of like, take some time off, relax, chill. None of this. I sent you an email at 9:01 and you didn't answer until 9:10, 9:15. You didn't answer immediately. I mean, we're so used to instant things, right? You send out an email, if I don't get it back, and then you're constantly looking at your phone. I'm telling you, I just think that there are adults who are worse than the kids, and we should know better. But here I am on social media. But I'm hoping the suit has some kind of muscle, because if the schools sue, I wonder what would be next for older people. I mean, because adults should horn in on this any way they can. There's just no reason why the young folks should, they should be the only ones allowed to beat up on Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. I don't use Snapchat. But it's Facebook, Instagrams, that's Meta, TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube. Don't know if Twitter's involved. They're not mentioned in the stories I'm seeing. But that's the Seattle Public Schools suing social media companies. It's important. It's important. All right, I think that's all for today. I mean, one could go on, but I can go outside and see if it's wet. Oh, I know it's wet. Hey, regular viewers, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Live. I don't know how much longer we're going to do this. We might do something, just switch it around and do it at night, like maybe 7 or 8 p.m. Pacific, which would be on the East Coast. It would be 4 or 5, right? Oh, no, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Pacific would be 10 o'clock at night, right? 8 would be 11 o'clock at night. So for the East Coasters, this would be like a late night talk radio, which for some people, it might be more up their alley. And then that's a discussion. But I know we're going to do some kind of changes. We're already at show, what is this? This is show 465. So maybe by 470, show 470, we'll be doing something a little different. Okay, so Frigid Fringe, once again, we're going to put all the information you need on amok.com. Check out my columns on ALDEF, aaldef.org/blog. If you're Filipino, if you're in the Philippines, check it out on inquirer.net, inquirer.net. Just search for Amok or Emil Amok. Go to amok.com to get replays of this show, see other things I'm doing. Now, true fans of the show, I like to meditate. I was watching the Today Show, and there was Tom Hanks who said he meditates. That's how he does it. He meditates. He said he and Jerry Seinfeld get together and meditate. Or Seinfeld has a teacher, a meditation teacher. They meditate. Yeah, that didn't surprise me, actually. I've gotten tremendous amount of, what's the word? joy. Joy is a little too happy. I have received the healing power of meditation, just being in the present. Like I said, I used to be amok. I mean, really amok. So I went from am okay to just plain am okay. I am okay. I am okay with it all. And it starts with a little self-love. You know, it's a kind of happiness in a way. And it's funny, I was reading an article in New Scientist today. New Scientist, a publication out of the UK. And they're talking about Robert, I believe his name, Robert Waldinger, who does this Harvard adult development survey, I think it's called. And he's got data from 80 years. And he was trying to figure out, why are people happy? And it's really no wonder. I mean, people are happy because they have warm feelings for others. I mean, the warmer your feelings for others, the more likely you are to be happy. I mean, that makes sense. But you have to go through the data, and having warm feelings is just, it's love, really, right? I mean, you don't love everyone the same, but just having warm feelings of connections, that's the important thing. And, you know, there's two buckets of happiness. There's one, the hedonic form, which is like hedonistic, right? Hedonic, moment to moment, you got to be happy every moment. It's got to be happy. You're not satisfied. And then there's this other deeper kind of feeling of happiness, a kind of contentedness. And those are the people who tend to be happier. It's not because they're striving. It's not because they want something. You know, they want to add to their outside collection of things to, you know, to make them happy. It's because they're connected to people. They have warm feelings for people who support them. And sometimes that's what you need. Not the external striving for success of, you know, bigger home, bigger car, bigger clothes. I guess your clothes are too tight. You need bigger clothes. Better clothes. Some people want, I need a better spouse. I need a better family. I need a better this, better job. No, you just need to, your insides have to be better. You need to clear out your insides and be better in general in the insides. Talking about a roto-rooter for your chakras. Anyway, I thought it was interesting because that's really the simple answer. The simple answer is the key to happiness is having those warm feelings. Warm feelings for others. This is why people were hit by the pandemic. When they're driven into their closets or they're driven into their homes, they're told they can't connect. I mean, there's still people I'm trying to connect with. There's still people I haven't connected with in more than 2 years. I mean, it's sad. But we're still in a pandemic, you know. I mean, this is the thing about me going out to the Frigid Fringe in New York, because I'm going out there because part of me just wants to be a part of something, of society again. And I guess that's the risk I'm taking. I know it's a risk because the pandemic's not over. But I mean, I I just feel like I see people out there without masks, and I'm trying to transform and make myself ready to deal with that. Fortunately, I'm healthy. I don't have any comorbidities, as they say. And so without those comorbidities, I'm at least ready to take greater risk, right? It's all about how much risk you're willing to take on. So February 16th, Thursday, opening night, New York City Frigid Fringe, 8:10 p.m. We end with a meditation each day. Loving kindness. It's simple. You think of someone you love, you say this. You think of someone you hate, you say this. You think of someone you don't know, you're indifferent to, you say this. You think of someone you want to know, you say this little chant, prayer, whatever you want to call it. It's a meditation. It's the way we say goodbye. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Hey, Golden Globe's on tonight. The only movie I saw among the best movies is the Tom Cruise movie. I like that. Top Gun Maverick. Oh, man. That's the modern movie experience, right? Interactive joyride. Movie as, that, wasn't quite as interactive as it was kind of an, assault, a visual and audio assault. But that's why it's a crowd pleaser. Anyway, I don't know if it's going to win. I'll talk about the Globes tomorrow. Other things. Emil Guillermo here. Until tomorrow. Mahal Ita.